Why even the best bridge bots are still way behind human experts, some insights. My name is Luc Bellicaud. I am a French bridge player experienced enough to understand the game deeply without claiming world-class level. That seems like a pretty fair assessment. Maybe a little bit humble. I think did he mention like some of his successes in like the junior realm, because I think he's done fairly well in terms of the junior playing, but yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to win a Bermuda Bowl anytime soon, maybe ever, but he does, from what I can tell, understand the game deeply. I mean, he's been on the channel a few times to help out with some commentary for some of the French matches, of course, and he's also a real delight to chat with. More relevant here, I'm the developer of Leah, the IntoBridge robot. I began building Leah just over 2 years ago, working entirely on my own right after finishing engineering school. I've noticed that many people here are interested in AI and whether it could beat humans in the near future. I believe I can offer some valuable insights. So I went over a decent amount of this when I made my video, like at the very start of my channel, about bridge robots and stuff, and talked a bit about the state of AI bridge. I mean, obviously, Luc offers a little bit more of a hands-on understanding of this because he's currently working in the state-of-the-art AI bridge stuff. Today, Leah performs at a level comparable to the strongest bridge bots currently available. To me, this says less about my personal abilities than about the current state of bridge AI. Reaching top-level performance does not require massive budgets or revolutionary ideas. In fact, the field has seen relatively little innovation for a long time, which makes it possible for a single developer to catch up. I'm not sure that this is true. The implementation of neural networks for bridge AI has been relatively new. I mean, I would say in the past 5 years, right? I remember he talked a little bit about the Nuke AI competition in this article, so we'll get there. But I don't think, for the most part, any of the bridge AIs were using neural networks. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe like Jack or W Bridge 5 or whatever those other bots are might do it. But I know that Gib didn't, right? ACBL Ben has been a very recent addition, like since I started streaming a few years ago. So before discussing the broader question of AI versus humans, it is useful to understand how modern bridge robots actually work, what they excel at, and where they still struggle. Most discussions about AI and bridge tend to overlook these fundamental points. I did talk about this a little bit in my video as well. How robots actually bid, strengths and structural weaknesses. Robots in the auction are fundamentally rule-following engines. A bidding system for a robot is essentially a long list of conditions. If X, then bid Y. This gives the robots reliability and predictability. They never forget an agreement, never mix up a convention, and always interpret their partner's calls exactly as programmed. So, in theory, this is true, right? But in practice, I've seen the robots do things that are wildly inaccurate descriptions of their hand when they had better descriptions available, because I don't know what the flaw is. But for some reason, the robots will, bid 3 no trump with a 9-card club suit and overlook the fact that like 3 clubs or 4 clubs or whatever would have been a more descriptive bid on their hand. So yes, like he is technically right. Like, it's the programmer's fault. They interpret partners' calls and they make their own calls exactly as they were designed and programmed to do so. I mean, neural networks are a little bit different. They're a black box. If you're a programmer, you would understand that term, but basically it means that we don't have a lot of insight into the inner workings of a neural network and how their decisions get made. They just choose, an answer from among a set of possible answers that they can give. But it sounds like what he's saying is that bidding has not been handed over to neural networks. So it's just a long list of conditional statements, if then, if then, if then, if then, so on and so forth. 100 Trick Wonder says, developer Jack says at the start of the auction, his robot strictly bids rule-based, and then later the robot starts actually sampling hand, so strategy can change mid-hand. I think that's probably also what Luke's doing. I mean, I would say the sampling thing is also like different from a neural network. Like sampling is not really black box. We understand what goes on. I mean, even if we don't have access to the exact hands that are sampled, like we understand what the robot's doing. Jake asks, would a neural network be allowed to play? Seems against the rules. I mean, it depends what you mean by be allowed to play. Like for one thing, you can treat this as just some sort of like video game, right? Where you have this AI agent that you're playing against and you're trying to play bridge, but there's just some set of constraints that you have to follow. I mean, having a description of your bids is helpful and important, but at some point you could, for example, rather than switch from sampling based to, between sampling based and rules based, you could switch from like rules based for the first 3 or 4 bids of the auction to like neural network based. And then the description could be like undiscussed, right? Like that would feel like real life. You work out what things happen, sort of thing. And I think that would be very sensible when auctions got a little bit longer, because having some sort of rules-based thing that probably wasn't programmed by someone who played bridge and has no idea the intricacies of such an auction does feel like the robots kind of go off the rails every once in a while. At least that's been my understanding. Anyway, let's keep seeing what Luke says. In that sense, robots enjoy a huge structural advantage over humans. Perfect partnership understanding. They never suffer from a system mix-up. Yeah, to play would be a much more helpful description a lot of the time. But this advantage has its flip side. Robots fail to grasp whether the partner's bidding under pressure or making the least bad call in a tough position. Humans recognize when a partner can be squeezed by the auction and may not be able to show their hand accurately. A robot does not, unless that exact scenario was encoded. Realistically, it is impossible to encode millions of pathological sequences. This is very true. There's so many different auctions that can occur. Sometimes the robot interprets its partner's auction as if it were made under ideal conditions, leading to wildly inaccurate decisions. Robots also struggle when situations fall completely outside their rules. For example, a robot may reach a forcing position where it has neither a stopper to show nor a suitable suit to repeat. Humans will improvise. A robot might panic. Its rules fail to match the situation, resulting in a clearly suboptimal action. These failures are really common, as no rule set can cover the enormous space of possible actions. When programmed rules ends, most robots switch to simulation. Okay, so Luke says that same sort of thing. They generate layouts of the unseen hands and select the bid with the highest statistical expectation. In practice, simulation has several weaknesses. For instance, robots in simulation cannot make propositional bids. A classic example is the 3-no versus 5-minor decision. Humans often use a qubit or stopper ask to determine whether 3-no is playable. Robots usually cannot do that. Once in simulation, they must choose immediately, often leading to premature trumps to 5 of a minor. Here's a typical example of W-Bridge 5 doing so. 2 clubs by West. Not a 2-club opener, but fine. 2 diamonds by East, 2 spade overcalled by South. Yeah, I mean, South is just like, I don't know who opened 2 clubs at this table, but if it wasn't me, then you got something wrong with your evaluation. 3 diamonds by West, and East jumps to 5 diamonds. Right, so this is a perfect example of where, like, a human East would do anything other than 5. I mean, they wouldn't do anything other than 5 diamonds, but they would bid 3 hearts or 3 spades. Whichever one, I guess, they feel like is going to get their partner to bid 3-no trump often enough. I mean, in some sense, the problem occurred because of the 2-club opener, right? But he's just illustrating a point, and I mean, he found a pretty good example of his point. So I'm not going to dwell too much on this specific hand, but yes, I mean, 2 clubs is the real culprit of this auction, but obviously East could have made a better decision over 3 diamonds. Card play, strengths and weaknesses of today's robots. Perfect memory, 0 attention errors. Robot never forgets a card, misremembers a discard, loses track of a suit, or gets distracted. Humans can leak tricks due to attention lapses, robots do not. Exceptional technical ability in fully open positions. Once a problem can be phrased as a 4-handed position, robots excel. Even complex squeezes like the reverse hexagonal backlash, I don't even know what a reverse hexagonal backlash is, pose no difficulty. They brute force the solution perfectly. I feel like I have counterexamples to this. It might not be Leah, it might have been Gib. So I think there are some scenarios where it's so hard to say, though, because it could be the case that, like, sometimes I just make an assumption that, like, must necessarily be true, and the robots can't make assumptions. So I can't recall an exact hand, but I think I brought it up like 2 or 3 times in videos where I'm just like, the robot was fully double dummy here, and they just made a nullo play for no reason. So I think it has happened before. Anyway, example of expert defense by Leah. Let's take a look. So expert defense looks like we're looking at north-south then. 1 spade opening from west, 2 club overcall. What? Wait. Oh my god. What is 2 clubs? Guys, I can't. 2 hearts looks like it must be some sort of like raise of spades. I don't know what's going on. 2 spade cupid. What is this auction, by the way? What is this auction? 4 spades from west. Dude, okay, let's look at the card play, but like it's hard for me to interpret based on what's going on here. Queen of hearts a lead. So I guess south showed hearts somewhere. I don't know where. Could it be 1 spade to pass? Maybe north actually passed here. It went 1 spade past 2 clubs. That would be believable. 2 heart overcall. 2 spades pass 4 spades. Okay, I think we've got the auction. There was a pass, well, 2 passes left out. So north passed, 2 clubs, game force, 2 hearts by south. Questionable, but fine. 2 spades past 4 spades. Also, south not opening. Whatever, that's just a robot thing. Okay, so I think we understand the auction. Now we understand the Queen of Hearts lead. Good. I'm an expert in understanding wrongly entered auctions, yeah. So Queen of Hearts, I guess south overtakes. No, south ducks. To the ace. So declare should duck, but declare 1. Fine. Maybe actually declare's right, because if they pick up the trumps, then they can run diamonds. Okay, so declare wins, plays a spade to the ace. Not the right way to play the spade suit, but probably fine. I mean, I guess you have to decide if you're hooking north for the spade queen. I think the answer is 100% yes, but anyway, robot goes spade to the ace, spade back to the king, north wins. Or, sorry, declare wins, and now tries diamonds. King of diamonds, jack of diamonds, diamond, north roughs in. And so now north needs to unblock the ace of clubs, get back in with the 10 of hearts, and then cash the king of clubs. Do they find it? Yes, they do. Club to the ace, low heart to the 10, big play from south, and then king of clubs. So I think this also goes to imp decision making, which is how the robots are programmed. Like, I've yet to ever see a robot programmed for match points, because this is a position where if West's hearts were ace 10 doubleton, then South has blown an extra trick here, right? By underleading the king jack of hearts. So it's not a completely it's not a completely what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like a free ability to underlead the heart. You would give up an extra overtrick. But it is true that North needs to get in and North needs to cash the king of clubs for us to be able to defeat four spades. And so, like, based on simulations, because a lot of the simulations rely on expected values of points earned. It's not expected values of, like, how you think you're going to do against the field, or it's not expected values on number of tricks taken, right? It's expected values on points earned. The way that imps are just scored is heavily weighted in favor of trying to make your contract at all costs, even for part scores to a large extent. So a lot of the robots will, like, choose crazy lines of play. Like, I don't know if this one's crazy. I mean, we would have to do a little bit of thinking to figure it out, but like, it doesn't matter to them if the contract makes with a large number of overtricks, because, like, the total points discrepancy is so large if you find any layout to defeat the contract, right? Like, even if this layout only occurred 10% of the time, that's a difference of, what would this be? 50 versus 420 or so. That would be like, you add in that extra, like, minus 57 points or whatever onto the expectation of the results. And so the one extra overtrick that occurs 90% of the time for 30 points is outweighed by the minus 57, even if it's such a small percentage chance. Now, like, I don't know what the odds of North having the 10 of hearts are, and this might be a good play regardless for a human, but, like, this is something the robots don't consider. Like, they always think about things double dummy, and they always think about things based on total points. All right, let's go back to the article. Oh, we're in the middle of page 3, I guess. Yeah, here. Okay. Perfect understanding of partner signals. Robots never misread partners' agreements. There's no ambiguity, hesitation, or forgotten rule. For example, World's Bridge 5 always plays the third card from an even number of cards unless the second best is less than or equal to 7. Its partner knows this with certainty and can extract perfect, accurate inferences about parity, length, and structure. This perfect partnership clarity is unmatched by human pairs. So I don't know if Gib or Leah actually have defensive agreements. I mean, like, Gib sometimes encourages an opening lead if they have, like, an honor in the suit. I have seen that. Leah seems to false card an awful lot on defense. And this is probably a good decision because Leah doesn't interpret its own partner's signals, so it's not helpful to signal if the only person gaining information about that is going to be Declare. But this does remove a large aspect of the game of bridge in terms of card play, which is defensive communication. I think that's, like, something that robots really would need to focus on. And there's been a lot of development in terms of AI communication schemes with neural networks specifically over the past number of years. I mean, when I was in grad school, there were a number of teams working on projects along those lines for games, trying to get two people in a game to coordinate with each other or cooperate. But yeah, it doesn't seem like Leah has that capability. Yeah, Wonder Trick Wonder says if robots always give faithful count, humans can abuse this. I mean, but I also think they should, right? Like, this would be more true to the nature of the game of bridge. Like, as a declarer, you're supposed to be able to try and take inferences about your opponent's carding. You're not supposed to just sit there and try and solve a dumb math problem. Like, that removes the bridge aspect from the game of bridge when you're declaring a hand. Like, there are a lot of people who can solve dumb math problems, right? I mean, I'm one of them, but, like, I'm not the only one. The thing that really differentiates between skill level and declarers is how you interpret your opponent's signals, right? Humans would never give count when it only helps declare. I mean, yes, true, right? But I mean, like, that's the thing. I think that it would be a more fun experience for people playing against robots, for one thing. And because then people could like learn signaling or learn to read signals and stuff like that. And then when you play against people in person, you would have to actually make decisions about whether or not they were carding accurately in specific situations. And you can learn that over time. That's like an experience thing. But in terms of like making it more fun, I think it would do that. And then if at some point in the future, the robots actually learn to read their partner's signals, then that would be cool too, because you already have it implemented. Rather than just having the carding be completely random. I mean, like, I know that there are documents on these things that say, oh, Leah behaves in this way, or Gib behaves in this way. But I've seen plenty of counterexamples, and I think much more so with Leah than with Gib. Gib would somewhat frequently give the proper carding. So I was able to take advantage of it, which was nice and helpful. But like, I also think it makes it a more authentic feel to the game. And it wasn't like Gib was doing it 100% of the time. Sometimes they wouldn't. So, you know, you have to judge. You have to use your judgment just like in real life. But I think if they did it closer to 100%, it would feel a lot more natural to me. Because most human players give like pretty honest signals. I mean, most experts at least. Like the better you get at bridge, the more you understand that partnership defense is where you really want to make sure you collect all your tricks. So the default is going to be to signal accurately to your partner, both in count and attitude. And then only if you have a real reason to not do so, or if you're apparently Klukowski and Kalita and you have to just discard the 4 clubs at every opportunity, then, you know, that's a different thing. But most expert pairs end up signaling pretty accurately. Okay, where are the weaknesses of the robots? Limited reasoning about opponents. Yeah, robots do not ask questions human asks. Why did he switch to the suit? Would West cover with King Doubleton here? Is this tempo natural or revealing? Yeah, the tempo thing is impossible with robots because they take the same amount of time for the most part for all decisions. They can't build psychological or reasoning models, and they are totally unable to interpret opponent tempos, both at the card and for the bidding. This is a major limitation. Example of W Bridge 5 not questioning Leah's spade back play. Can I open this in a separate tab so that I don't have to reload the article every time? So 2-0 from South. Oh my god, every pass is alerted. Oh my god, every pass is alerted. Wait, 0 to 17 highs? So with 18 high card points, West would double 2-0? Or do something? We missed a pass again. Okay, but it looks like North-South had some sort of Stamen auction. They found their 4-4 spade fed. Hello? Hello? Excuse me? Uh-oh. I guess we don't get to see this example. Brute force simulation, not anticipation. Most top robots generate many possible opponent hands, solve each as a 4-hand problem, and choose the card maximizing expected tricks. No. So we were just talking about this. I don't think that this is true. And I'm so certain that this isn't true for Leah as well. I think... I know that Luke, English is not his first language, but it's definitely maximizing total points is what the robots are doing. I mean, I would trust him if he said that Leah is maximizing total tricks, but I don't believe that for a second. This works for forced sequences, but collapses when optimal play requires planning ahead, causing delayed or inferior decisions. Example of Leah missing a danger that is quite obvious for a human. All right, let's take a look. So North doubled 2 clubs at some point in this auction. What happened here? So this was just a invite with 4 hearts is what happened. So South led a diamond, I guess. South led a club. Partner did double 2 clubs. Okay, 9 of clubs goes to the 10, king, and ace. Declare has 3 diamond tricks, 4 hearts, and 2 clubs at the very least. They unblock the ace queen of hearts. Fair enough. I mean, I'm not convinced this is the best line of play, but seems fine. Cashes the diamond ace. Gets the bad news. North throws a club. Takes a diamond hook to the jack. Sure. North pitches the king of spades. Oh my god. What is that? Hello? North has no entries to their clubs anymore. What just happened? What was the king of spades discard? All right, cashes the jack of hearts, throws a spade, sure. Cashes the king of hearts, throws a club, yep, looks good. Cashes the king of diamonds. Oh god, no, don't tell me. There's no way. North pitches a spade. And exits a spade. So yeah, this is, I mean, he's illustrating the example. This is a little bit convoluted, but here's the problem, right? Leah has worked out that playing a club to the queen and playing a spade to the jack are both worth exactly 600 points. So it just randomly picked one, right? Like it simulated hands and it didn't calculate out far enough to realize that when it played a spade to the jack, it was going to have a guess to make later in the play. It didn't realize that. It just, based on the way the play has gone with hearts 4-3, diamonds 5-0, the 9 of clubs opening lead, which is either singleton or doubleton, South either has 2 spades remaining and 1 club, or South has 3 spades remaining and 0 clubs. So on the run of diamonds, Leah can just pitch the queen and 7 of clubs, right? No problem. And you get 9 tricks that way. You eventually score up the 10 of spades at the end of the hand. But, I mean, like, you could just cash the queen of clubs and also get to 9 tricks. So anyway, spade to the jack, South wins the queen, starts cashing diamonds, Declare throws a club, cashes the 10 of diamonds, and now Leah gets pseudo-squeezed. Right? Like, if you know what South's remaining black card is after the ace of spades, then you can make the contract. But Leah pitches a spade, because this is percentage, it's much more likely that South was 3-3-5-2 than 4-3-5-1. Like, that's how these things go. So, ends up losing the rest of the tricks and going down in 3-0 with 9 off the top. Well played. Leah did not see that she would face a discard problem later and was confused by the unusual discard of the king of spades. Dude, what was the king of spades? Leading her to go down in 3-0 with 8 tricks already made and the club queen to cash. Okay, here's the Nuke AI. Nuke AI, a breakthrough many people didn't fully appreciate. I mean, I did not appreciate it. Like, I also had reached out to this company and asked them for their paper on the project, and they did not send me anything. In fact, they didn't reply at all. A few years ago, Nuke AI created an AI that defeated human experts, but in a very narrow challenge. The AI played only as Declarer, always in the 1-no, 2-no, 3-no auction, against WBridge 5 rather than humans. The breakthrough was modeling an opponent's mind. Nuke AI could predict with over 98% accuracy which defensive card an opponent would play. For the first time, a bridge robot formed an internal model of another player's behavior and exploited it. So this is interesting because modeling opponent behaviors is still, to this day, a very, very difficult problem in AI. But going all the way back to the first breakthrough of machine learning, AlphaGo, that was an integral part to how AlphaGo in 2016 solved the problem of defeating humans, because it had, I don't know if anyone's seen the AlphaGo documentary by DeepMind. I would highly recommend watching it. It's like an hour-and-a-half movie or whatever. But the ways that that AlphaGo was able to defeat humans are it had multiple neural networks that it used to try and come up with its moves. And one of the 3 different neural networks that it used when it was playing the game, one of those neural networks was to predict what a human player would do in a situation. So it could find out, like, I mean, the way that it was shown in the documentary, I didn't read through the entire paper or anything on it, but in the documentary, there was a game that AlphaGo lost to Lee Sedol, who was the human world champion of Go at the time. And the reason was Lee Sedol made a move that was judged to be only a 1 in 10,000 chance that a human would make that move. So the robot just did something that expected to just win against whatever its opponent played, and Lee Sedol found the, like, effectively impossible to find human play that countered it. But so, like, this is important because, like, this is actually how humans solve problems, right? Like, you hear me a lot of the time thinking about where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do this, and there's no way they're going to find the right defense, right? And sometimes I say that, like, a bit sarcastically, and sometimes I say that and then they do anyway because Leah's looking at my hand. But like, this is how humans think, right? Like, sometimes when you have, like, ace third upset 3 small and the opponents lead that suit against no trump, you just duck trick 1 because it's really hard for them to switch. Even if there's some killer switch that they could make, and the technically best thing for you to do is to just play for the opening lead to be 6-1, like, you just duck the opening lead and you're like, they're never going to switch, so this is fine, right? And usually they don't switch. So I wouldn't say that this idea or this concept is new of modeling opponent behavior, but this probably is. I mean, I did this in my Bridge AI back in undergrad, so, like 20 years ago or something. So, like, it's not as if this is even necessary. I mean, sure, my thing didn't make headlines or whatever. I didn't have funding for it. It wasn't a big project. And, like, I dropped it after school because, like, I just needed a thesis. But yeah, like, modeling opponent behavior is really important for AI. Like, I knew it back in the day. So, like, I tried to do it and I was pretty successful at predicting opponent responses. And Nuke AI did this as well. But they have millions of dollars and were able to fund some sort of big experiment to show it off. So, okay. So disagree, Luke. Absolutely disagree with this statement for the first time. I did this. I don't remember what year I wrote my thesis. It might have been... I don't know. I don't remember. It was well over 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago at this point. Why the challenge was narrow. The limitation was practical. Designing a full bidding engine would have greatly increased complexity. The constraint was about bidding, not card play. The constraint was about bidding, not card play. Nuke AI's declare play would have worked equally well with other auctions if the bidding information were available. Would it work against humans? Humans are messier, but 2 points matter. We lack sufficient data to reliably model a human defender. I think he's talking about this purely in the programming sense. Because humans model human defenders pretty well at the table. Even without perfect signals, Nuke AI would still perform at a very high level, leveraging anticipation of tendencies rather than perfect count signals. Oh, Eric, are you wondering if the sort of challenge would have worked against humans? Would what perform at a high level? Like, what exactly are you referring to? Would Nuke AI perform at a high level if it was a solo robot playing against 3 humans, or if it was like 2 of them playing against 2 other humans. I mean, based on what I saw from the experiment, I would say no, it would not. Oh, I see. Even without perfect signals, Nuke AI would still perform at a high level, leveraging anticipation of tendencies. My opinion is no, but again, I never got to read a paper on this. I wanted to read a paper. I would be very interested in still reading a paper. All I was able to find out was like testimonials from the people who competed, the contest results, and just a very limited like live stream in French where they have where they had like live playthroughs of the boards, but it was like very grainy YouTube video and you couldn't make out much. So I don't know. I would believe this. I mean, this would be believable to me. So I'm not going to say that like Luc is wrong about this point. He just has a different opinion than I do about the experiment. What the experiment really demonstrated. The main lesson, when real resources, time, funding, skilled engineers are applied, progress in bridge AI happens quickly. Nuke AI showed that a robot can start doing what humans do instinctively, build a model of opponents, and exploit it. So yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I did, right? Like for my thesis, way before Nuke AI, I didn't use neural networks. I had no funding. I just wrote the code in like C++. I mean, it wasn't like super complicated to program. I mean, I think it was probably like 10,000 lines of code or something like that, but it was a project I worked on. And of course, I mean, you can build a model of opponents and exploit opponents who follow that model. The model that I used was actually Gib. So like I built a model of Gib and demonstrated that my robot could absolutely destroy Gib in every sense of the term. And okay, I didn't have a bidding engine either, but I also didn't constrain stuff to only the auction 1 no, 2 no, 3 no. Mine was I did like a short look through the player's hands, and based on how many total high card points the side with the most high card points has and their longest suit, I just selected a contract for them. So no bidding. Right, so you couldn't draw inferences from the bidding, which obviously is a pretty important thing to do as declarer and defenders. But in terms of just like a play engine, that's what I did in my project. And so it was the same idea, though. Like I built a model of the opponents. I wasn't using neural networks. I was just using, at the time, generic AI techniques. Neural networks were not that popular when I was an undergrad. And yeah, if you do a good job as a programmer, you should be able to exploit a model that you've built from the opponents. If you have more information than the opposing party, then you're going to be able to beat them, or hopefully you can beat them. Unfortunately, no one seriously continued this line of research. Nuke AI stopped the project because it was primarily a showcase for selling their AI products, and no other group has comparable resources. Makes sense. I programmed this on MS-DOS? Yeah, pretty much. Last paragraph explains everything. The whole project was basically just to generate a good headline. Right, of course. Why Bridge AI is so underinvested. The discussion so far points to a simple but often overlooked conclusion. When real resources are put into Bridge AI, progress happens immediately. So why is Bridge AI so underinvested? Bridge platforms don't need a world-class robot to survive. Very true. Companies such as BBO, FundBridge, or IntoBridge are the natural candidates to fund AI development. Every platform needs a robot. It's a basic feature. But a high-level robot is not commercially essential. If robot strength were a decisive factor for players, BBO would have vanished years ago. Gib is objectively far weaker than modern competitors, yet BBO remains the largest platform in the world. That tells us something simple. Players want a serviceable robot, not a great one. So I would say, if you were able to program a robot that is better than the best human players. Or if you're able to program a robot that is competitive with the best human players, then everyone would flock to your site. If you could do that, then everyone would be in. But this is a really hard problem to solve, because at Bridge, unlike chess and Go and a bunch of other games of this nature, Bridge is a closed environment, or Bridge is a stochastic environment. That's the term. So like I guess you would also say it's a closed environment. Eric says, would it? I think absolutely. Like if your selling point is that you have a site where the robots are competitive with the best players in the world or better than the best players in the world, everyone would want to play against that. And this wouldn't like just be a fad. For casuals, you think this would be overwhelming? I think there are enough people who want to learn, improve, and get better that they would want to play with the best partners and play against the best opponents. I feel very strongly that that's true. Like, there are going to be some casual players that aren't necessarily looking for that type of experience, but like, I think for them, they also don't even want to play against robots, right? Like, I don't think that people enjoy like getting mad at the robots whenever the robot does something that's inhuman. I think most casual players are going to be playing with other humans in like human-led games. Jake says if you practice against Stockfish, you don't learn anything. Interesting point. Yeah, if you practice against weak engines, you also don't learn anything. I think for people who want to play against robots, because it's probably easier than getting together groups of 4 people to play regularly, or paying money to play in an ACBL game or whatever on BBO, I would wager that a lot of them would be interested, and not just as like a one-time experiment thing, but as like as in I want to learn and improve, and like this is a reasonable way to try and improve. Yeah, I mean, technically the best way to improve is to find someone who's a little bit better than you and then train with them, and continue doing that as you advance up the ranks. Interesting. Okay, you might be right, chat. I did feel very strongly about this, and now I feel like moderately strong about this. But okay, I mean, like, people do want a robot. And I think to Luke's point about, like, the speed of play, absolutely. Like, you do want a robot that plays almost instantaneously. You don't want to be sitting there for 5 minutes while a robot makes a decision. A better robot might be nice, but it does not meaningfully shift market share. So companies have little incentive to invest heavily. I also don't think there's a large enough market, right? Like, to design a robot of that caliber, like, let's say however many resources Nuke AI put in, probably millions, you're not going to gain back $1 million by changing, like, the 20,000 users of BBO to your site, right? Like, most users of BBO don't generate any revenue. Or actually, I don't know if that's true, but a lot of BBO users don't generate revenue. Game King says, depends how good you are at chess if you can understand the best chess engine. I mean, maybe. There are definitely situations so I've heard Fabiano Caruana talk about this a little bit because I've watched some of his podcasts that he does. I don't know why they're called podcasts, because it's just a YouTube video. Anyway, I've watched some of those things that he does with Christian Corella, and he's talked a bit about the robots, how he's just like, you know, and then when I looked at this opening with Stockfish, it suggested that I should be playing a4 in this position. And like, I would never have considered a4 because a4 doesn't make any sense. But with the computer suggesting it, like, now I can figure out why like a4 is a good move, right? Because like further down the lines, it's really important that I can play a5 in a lot of positions, you know, stuff like that. And so you probably can understand very, very high level concepts if you have, like, kind of, if you can understand how to, the strengths and weaknesses of different moves and stuff like that. So it's probably right that that strong players could understand engines that are stronger than them in bridge and chess. You like C squared? Yeah, they're pretty cool. I don't always watch, but sometimes there's something that happens in the chess world and I'm like, ooh, drama. Better get my fix on like every single chess YouTuber talking about this. And then I go dormant for like a couple of months until the next tournament comes out. Okay, where were we? Tech giants have no incentive to take on bridge. Another possible investment would be large research groups such as DeepMind or Nuke AI, seeking to demonstrate the power of their algorithms. This happened in Go chess and partially poker, but bridge is a bad candidate for them for several reasons. High variance makes evaluation difficult. Incomplete information adds complexity. Domain expertise is essential. You cannot brute force bridge from scratch the way you can with Go chess. The commercial payoff is negligible. Right? Even 5 years ago, a serious bridge project from DeepMind or similar was unlikely. Today, it's even less likely because the entire A world is pivoted towards LLMs, and LLMs are terrible at bridge. I am not well versed enough to understand why LLMs would be bad at bridge, but I trust them. The game is too structured, too combinatorial, too dependent on hidden information. And critically, there's also almost no bridge data available online to train them. So the current AI wave is moving in a direction that naturally ignores bridge. What's an LLM? A large language model. LLM. Let me see if I can, like ChatGPT is an LLM, right? It's, I'm trying to think of a non-LLM to compare that people might know about. I'm kind of blanking. Okay. Google, what is a popular non-LLM? Nope. I don't think they exist. I mean, it is true. I've heard that LLMs have essentially replaced like the functionality of almost every neural network out there. You can research it yourself. I mean, ChatGPT is an LLM. It's basically like a, I don't know if you know what a tokenizer is, but it like, yeah, I mean, as Jake says, predicting the next word in a sentence is a way that LLMs are used, but they're used for a whole lot more. Something like image recognition probably wouldn't be done with an LLM, but I've been out of grad school for a couple of years, and I know that LLMs are like all the craze now. But like, it used to be the case that CNNs, convolutional neural nets, were the state-of-the-art designs for image recognition. So like categorizing images, like you flash up an image, is this a dog, a cat, or like a moose or something, right? And then the AI would tell you what it's an image of. That would not be a traditional LLM type of AI. But all of these like generating text stuff is going to be LLM based. What could happen if there were investment? Despite all that, I'm convinced of the following. If you assembled a serious team, say 2 engineers like myself with experience building bridge AIs and 6 specialists in neural networks and large-scale models, and gave them a few years and proper funding, you could produce a robot at the level of the world's best human players. There is nothing mysterious blocking the path, only a lack of resources. Don't fool yourself, bridge is not too complex. It's just not worth the investment. I'm up in the air on this because bridge is definitely different than Go and chess. I think bridge has some of the similarities to a lot of like the MOBA games in terms of the communication between players. And with MOBA games being, I'm not going to say solved, but like there are teams that can defeat the best MOBA teams in the world in a bunch of these games. Like Dota was the first. I think Rocket League, they also have like AIs that are now either competitive or better than the best human teams. I don't know if like some of these other like MOBA games like Apex Legends or whatever have, I don't even, is that a MOBA? I'm not sure. It's been, I don't play any of these things, at least not anymore. But the communication between the AIs in those games, I feel like is somewhat similar to in Bridge because you each have access to some amount of information and you need to somehow pass that information back and forth so that your teammate can figure out what you're looking at or what you want to do, sort of thing. So given that it was solved for those, I would say much more complicated games, I think Luke is probably right that it can be done for Bridge. But in terms of like stochastic game playing, I mean, there's poker, but it's a single player game. I think there's another level that needs to be added, but I think he's probably right that like a group of people who are seriously working on this and are funded to do this project could beat the best bridge players. It's funny to think of a team of experts trying to build a Rocket League super robot. Yeah. Conclusion. Today's bridge robots remain far weaker than the best human players. Apart from Nuke AI's work, there's been essentially no technical innovation in the field, and the potential breakthrough modeling opponents' minds has not been exploited further. The tools exist, but the investment, focus, and sustained research required are missing. I'm happy to answer any technical questions. Look forward to discussing the subtleties of bridge AI with anyone interested. Wait, we have a bonus. What do we win? Oh, fuck off. It's a goddamn cat in a hat. It's like a Dr. Seuss novel. Okay, I'm sorry that I opened that. What do we see in the comments? I'm probably just going to look at the most upvoted ones. Really good article. Thanks for posting. Yeah. What is all this? Okay, not sure about other bots. Here's how Leah works. She doesn't reason like a human declarer, but she does have a mechanism that produces the same practical effect in many situations. When she has a card to play, she generates a large set of possible layouts and unseen hands. Each of these layouts is assigned a probability based on the auction, the play so far, and basic combinatorics. That's like every other robot. So I'm actually not convinced that every robot does this. And it also depends what he means by robots doing this. Because, so I was able to teach, in a way, my robot inference based on the play. And I did that by, oh, how deep do I want to go into this? No, we should have a discussion. So inference is a really hard thing for AI. Right? Because like this is, I would call it an innately human quality where you can make deductive logical jumps to conclusions based on what has happened before. I mean, it's not exactly like a Markov chain, but for an AI, maybe it should be modeled in that way as a Markov chain. But so the way that I was able to teach my robots inference, and like, I'm not going to claim that I did a great job of this, but I was able to do more than zero, was every single time I simulated a hand for the robots, I checked to see if that hand was consistent with a previous play. And by consistent, I meant in the sense that, like, if they held, you know, like, not that exact hand or whatever, but like a similar collection of the important cards, like honor cards and stuff like that, would they have done like the same thing? Like, would the play that they would have made have been reasonable? It didn't have to be the best play. It just had to be like within some sort of like percentage margin of like what the optimal play was. And if it is consistent, then that hand can go in the simulation. If it's not consistent, then that hand gets discarded from the simulation. I mean, this isn't exactly how I coded it. I was a little bit more efficient about what I did because I was, instead of specifically testing at simulation time, I tested the simulations as they came up. And so like every simulation was a true simulation. So I wasn't like discarding things and having to, you know, like simulate a bunch and throw stuff out and do calculations and throw stuff out sort of thing. Every simulation became true, but based on the simulation, the percentage chance of them holding a specific card got increased or decreased. So over time, like, this was able to weight the chances of specific cards being in specific hands. So like at the end of play, for example, you know, it would probably still have a full count on the hand and be like, oh, the Queen of Clubs is 3-2 to be on my right because that person started the hand with 3 clubs. But if left-hand opponent had 3 clubs and they started with Queen Doubleton, they might have defended completely differently. So the robot by the end of the hand would have come to the conclusion, oh, maybe it's like 75-25 that the Queen of Clubs is actually on the left. And so they take this like anti-percentage finesse against the Club Queen. So this is, I don't think other robots do this, as far as I know, because this is a difficult thing to figure out. And I was just like a clever, idiotic kid, right? Like I was like, oh, it would be so cool if I could like weight the probabilities of honors being in people's hands. Let me figure out a way to do that. And then I did. And again, like, I'm not claiming this was like a great solution to the problem, but I think I proved that you can do this. It is possible to weight the honor locations more than just some sort of probability based on an auction or based on like which cards are missing. So I don't know exactly what Luc means by this, but I'm guessing he doesn't mean what I said. I'm guessing he just means based on like the a priori odds of the thing. Okay, here's the key part. If in a given layout, a defender would have given away a trick earlier in the hand double dummy-wise, then that layout becomes, oh, wait a second. For example, if a layout implies that a defender just gave declare an entry that enables a finesse, which would beat the contract 4 tricks later, Leah marks that layout as unlikely. She doesn't think they wouldn't do that at the table. She simply eliminates the probabilities of deals where the defense's action is wrong. As a result, after downweighting those inconsistent layouts, the remaining ones may all indicate that finesse is wrong, so she'll refuse the finesse, not because she understands the psychology. Okay, so Luc actually does do a similar thing, stolen from Rob. No, I mean, I didn't like patent anything, and I'm certainly happy to share ideas on this. I mean, I've talked with the guy who does the Gib robots about my project. I don't think he's utilized any of the stuff that I was implementing because he's mostly working on neural network stuff. But this process has limits. If the real layout is something extremely improbable from the start, for example, stiff king offside in an 8-card suit, Leah might not find it. It's not that she's fooled, but that the genuine layout had such a low prior probability that downweighting inconsistent deals still doesn't make it rise to the top. So I think Luc has done a great job. I mean, I don't know the specifics of how he's implemented this, but this seems, I mean, this is definitely more than I think Gib does, as far as I can tell. Also, as noted, Leah cannot adapt any of this to the actual level of her opponents. She can't think they're strong, so this is a trap, or they're weak, so they may have misdefended. She only works with what's logically consistent or inconsistent with the play. Very good. Let's keep going. Suggesting to not play with Gib. Well played. I'm just looking for like big upvoted stuff. Oh. This is the peaking thing. Hi, Luke. Nice article. Very interesting. Years ago, I recalled reading about peaking. This was back in the early days of bridge software competitions. Is that still a thing? Thanks. Hi. Bots never peak in official bot versus bot competitions. They only use the same information humans have. But when playing with or against humans, many robots do include the full deal as one of the samples in their analysis. It's not the only thing they use, but having the real layout inside the sample set greatly improves speed. Pure non-peaking simulation is too slow for real-time play with a decent level. Reduces random swingy guesses because the bot's decisions are stabilized by that extra sample. So peaking is banned in competitions but widely used in casual robot play to keep things fast and consistent. Ooh. I feel like this is actually the source of a lot of my frustration, because there were so many times where I've been like, where I was like, there's no way they're going to find the right defense on this hand, and then they immediately find the right defense. I mean, sometimes they don't, but like a lot of the time they do. And that makes the game feel very much not human, which I don't know if it's supposed to. You're playing against 3 robots, like it's supposed to feel like a human game. I would prefer if the game felt more human. But that's just me. How big is a sample? I'm surprised that using the actual deal instead of one additional random sample noticeably affects speed and results. 1 sample equals 1 diagram to be solved by double dummy. When adding in the real diagram, Leah only uses 10 samples while she uses... Okay, so this is what I did too when I did it. Because double dummy solvers have been like pretty state of the art for a large number of years. I mean, even back when I was programming. So to get the robot to play reasonably, I set the number at 100 of double dummy simulations, which... I mean, I wouldn't say that my robot was still, like, better than the best human players. It was a good robot. I mean, it's better than Gib is now, and it's probably comparable to, like, some of the other bots out there. But this doesn't make any sense to me. I kind of agree with Matthias here, saying... Surprised that using the actual deal instead of 1 additional random sample noticeably affects speed. Like, why are we using 10 samples, including a 10% chance, or 10% of the weight coming from the actual deal that's played, as opposed to the same number? Like... Okay, I kind of understand. I've thought about this for a minute. I think this is terrible. Like, knowing this, I now hate this. But if this is what all robots are doing, I do not like that. And that probably does explain why a lot of the robots have felt like they're just looking at my hand when they defend sometimes. So the point is that strong defenders will generally not drop tricks. Okay, like strong human defenders will not drop tricks. I mean, like every once in a while they do, and sometimes you're put to a guess, but for the most part, strong human defenders aren't going to blow tricks. If Leah defends double dummy, she's not going to drop tricks on defense. I mean, like you might as her human partner because you don't know what's going on, and sometimes your partner makes a weird switch for some reason, but so it has nothing to do with using the real deal as one of the samples that causes it to be slower. It's just that by using the real deal and making it such a large percentage of our calculations, we're able to simulate the effect of Leah being a strong defender and a strong declarer, I guess, for that matter, which makes it feel a little bit more human. Like the robot's going to play in a way that would be consistent, well, not necessarily consistent, but would achieve similar results to a strong human opponent. I mean, if he told me that it was like 100 samples with one of them as the true deal, and normally it would take him like 1,000 to get the right result, then I would be like, okay, like it's 1%. I still do not like this. I still think 1% is too high, but that would be okay. Here, I do not like 10. But going back to his point, people don't want a good robot. They just want one that performs its duty. So yeah, with 10 samples where they couldn't look at the actual hand, it would be a little bit too random in terms of the actions that were taken. I mean, this is kind of what I found with my robot as well, that I didn't define it as succinctly as Luc did here, but I noticed that its behavior was not very good when I had fewer than 100 samples that I mean, 100 is just a generic term. I just wrote in 100 because I was looking at powers of 10. But if I only did like 15 or 20, it was not very strong, the robot. So it took me up to 100 to get it to be a reasonable robot to compete against. And by the end of my programming, I mean, it felt like I was playing against an advanced / low expert human player. Like I was still much better than it, but like I played against my robot. I think I have the code lying around somewhere if people would be curious to see this at some point. But it's been so many years that I don't know where it would be. It might be on one of my random like external hard drives that are just like sitting in storage. But yeah, I mean, like it was very slow. It would take 5 full minutes to play through a deal, which most of that was spent at trick 1 because with 13 cards in hand, everyone has a lot of decisions to make. But yeah, I did have to run through 100 double dummy sims basically for every action for it to play reasonably. This might be more of an issue of personal aesthetics than anything else, but to me, at least, what you're describing is pretty much cheating. Of course it is, which is fine. That Richard Wiley guy comments on everything. Showing all 4 hands to Leah, even if this is only 1 out of 10 hands that it's using, seems to violate a fundamental rule of the game. Okay, I don't care about this. I care more that it is a 10% weight that's being applied to this scenario. It's precisely the same sort of behavior that we're prosecuting. Okay, don't fucking care about this. Why did this get so many upvotes? It's a fundamental departure from the way the game's supposed to be played. Oh my god. I would rather live in a world in which Leah was a bit slower and burning a bit more CPU rather than having a side channel. I mean, I can get behind this. I would prefer this as well. Richard Wiley is actually a bot? Oh my god. Hold on, I need to stand up for a second. I am Need to get the blood flow to my legs. Let's keep reading. I'm surprised, to put it mildly, that one would even consider doing such a thing. Whenever it makes a difference, it skews the result toward double dummy, i.e. we allow Aunt Emma to peek every 10th time. That's not negligible. I mean, that's not exactly how percentages work, but fair enough. It's not a negligible advantage to convince to 50-50 and to 55-45. Sure. I mean, also not exactly what's going on, but fair enough. What's even more surprising, I certainly didn't foresee it, is that people are attracted to the robot games. Wait. Huh? That contradicts many of the pious incantations praising the virtues of the game. Okay, I'm just going to skip that. What does Andy say? He has a bridge site. I think it depends on what you want from your bot. If you want to play a game that is actually bridge, obviously the bot can't be allowed to cheat. If you're just there to practice your card play, something to be said for having opponents that are more likely to challenge you. Seems fair. This is a funny comment. This raises another issue. Let's say one of Leah's opponents tries a very outlandish bid, opening one no with a side void, for example. Does this sampling procedure mean that as soon as Leah sees this opponent show out, she knows the entire layout, all 52 cards down to the deuce? After all, the only deal in her sample will have the void is the real deal. That's hilarious, right? So like once she shows out, if she continues trying to simulate based on the auction, yeah. Interesting. Okay. Let me sit back down. Okay, Matthias responds, I don't think this design is outright wrong. After all, competitive robot formats are ultimately scored as human versus human, so nobody is disadvantaged. Still, I feel that it should be reconsidered. If 1/10 of the sample, assuming equal weighting is the actual hand, it will sometimes skew the odds in favor of successful action, leading to outcomes which can look and feel strange. That's how I felt. Essentially, I'm surprised that the sample size is significantly larger than 10 caused performance issues. I'm not, because I've worked on this, but I understand his point. Are these recreated from scratch for every decision? Other designs? Okay, this guy probably doesn't know how to program. In any case, it's an interesting discussion. Has nothing to do with business ethics. I agree. I appreciate that Luc shares. I have a feeling it would be difficult to impossible to get such information from other platforms. Also agree. Okay, what does Luc say? Thanks, everyone. Lots of good points here. Let me clarify a few technical aspects about how Leo works. Some concerns come from assumptions that don't quite match the actual design. Samples are fully regenerated at every decision. Same, that's what I did. Leah never keeps a persistent set of deals from earlier in the hand. Each time she has to play cards, she generates a new batch of possible layouts filtered by everything that's happened so far. During the card play, she is stateless, to be technical, so if an opponent makes an extremely strange bid, the majority of the generated layouts will be strange all the way through the hand. Adding the real layout as one single sample does not suddenly tell her. So I agree with this. It's going to be a challenge, though, to generate these deals, right? Because, like, if you have to be consistent with the auction, which, like, anyway, I'm sure he's doing this right. It is an interesting point that Paulo brought up about this. So this would be a challenge. The way that I did it was, I mean, I essentially randomly simulated the cards based on the probability of each card being in a specific... It was complicated, but like if someone was void, then every single simulation would be with that void, no matter how unlikely. Also, I didn't have auctions to deal with, so I can't really speak based on the bidding. Speed matters a lot. I understand the argument. I'd rather wait 2 seconds than have any peeking, but yeah, but from a practical standpoint, a bot that thinks for 2 seconds on every card is simply unplayable in a human-facing interface. He's tried that. It's frustrating. I'm not sure the point he's trying to make here. I'm trying to understand if he says that 2 seconds is a long time, or if it's like infeasible for there to be a 2-second delay. Two seconds is the long time for every card. I mean, like, to me, 2 seconds would not be a long time for every card. But also, I don't think that's functional. I don't think you can have it be 2 seconds for every card, because the card play at the beginning of the deal takes so many more resources than the card play at the end of the deal. You have a much larger hand to simulate double dummy solutions for, and it's harder to simulate double dummy for 52 cards than it is for 10 at the end of play. So it's always going to be the case that there's an exponential increase in the amount of time taken for the very first card to be played in a deal than it will for the very last card to be played in a deal. And I don't think I've noticed that sort of delay when playing with a lot of the robots. Maybe it's there slightly, but that's probably just because it's so quick. Like, it's hard to perceive a difference from 1.5 seconds to like 0.01 seconds. It's pretty difficult. Using the real deal as one low weight sample. Low weight. It depends what he means by low weight. Allows Leah to play quickly and reduce wild swings caused by tiny sample sizes. Without it, card play becomes more random and erratic. Finesse on guess. Finesse on guess. See, I think the way to avoid card play being random and erratic is to just seed deals, which is exactly what it seems like they've done. As long as you're using the exact same system as your opponent, then the card play is not random or erratic. I mean, sure, there's like 100 different systems that you can use across the site. So if you're playing in the ranked games or whatever, fine. Maybe this is a little bit frustrating as a user. But playing in like the Daily Celeb Challenge and whatnot, I can just play the same convention card as the Daily Celeb, and then there's no randomness as long as I play the exact same spot cards as my opponent, which like sometimes I don't do, but that's fine. I mean, it can create a bit of a swing here and there. But for the most part, I mean, if I take the same line of play, we get the same number of tricks, and that's fine. Lots of reports frustrated users when it happens, and I don't want to multiply this by 10. Yeah. Why not use thousands of samples? People often underestimate the cost. It's not only the double dummy solver, but this is the bottleneck, is the double dummy solver. I can guarantee that. Like, generating random layouts is a fraction of the cost of using the double dummy solver. He generates random layouts 100 times the number of samples he wants to have at the end, and then filters them out. Okay, yeah, so this is the thing that I think could be done a little bit more efficiently, which is what I ended up doing. Like, I said that this was basically what I did when it came to filtering for the likelihood of certain honors being in certain locations, but that's not actually what I did. I was updating, I kept like a little database. I mean, it was only a 52 card database, but it became populated with, you know, percentages between 0 and 100% based on where that card got simulated during the play and whether it was consistent with previous layouts. So like, I didn't actually need to generate more layouts than I needed. That came out weird, but yeah. So there's probably a more efficient way to do this. Luke, if you're watching, he's probably not gonna watch this, but like, I think there is a more efficient way to do this, but it's hard. This is a hard problem to solve. You applaud anyone who takes on this project. It's a tedious challenge. I mean, I think for a lot of us, it was just like a fun little project. Like I had to do a thesis for my undergraduate degree. And so this is what I chose to do for my thesis. And like, it was fun working on it because like every new update, I mean, once I got past like the bare bones stuff and had a working bridge playing agent, I just got to like sit down and play bridge against a robot that I programmed, which was cool. Like that was fun and enjoyable. I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing. And like, sure, there was work involved, but I think Luke also enjoys working on this project, I imagine. Weighting them with inference rules, chat Gib does not do at all. Wait, why are we talking to chat all of a sudden? Chat? I didn't realize that you were a part of this thread. Solving them, doing some post double dummy adjustments. Between 10 and 100 samples, there's a huge difference in quality, but between 100 and 1,000, it's marginal. Also, Leah's code in Python, which doesn't help for the overall speed. Yeah, Python is slow. I was using C++ because I don't think Python even existed. Oh, what? I see. It's funnier, though, if he was talking to you guys, or any generic chat out there, or basically chat the way that Gen Alpha uses it when they're just talking to a group of people. Did anyone else realize that kids these days are just like calling their friend groups chat as if like they're talking to a live stream? That blows my mind. Like, I'm pretty sure none of them even live stream, but yet they're just calling everyone chat. Oh man. Chat Gib is like a combination of Gib and Chat GPT. Nice. You think it would do better if it's asking philosophical questions like, why would they switch to the Ace of Spades? And then answering it with similar ability to like the way that that Chat GPT plays other games by making illegal moves. It's like, I think we should play our Joker. And Gib's like, I don't have a Joker. Please suggest a different card. You wonder how much the code can be improved, Eric says, by attempting to optimize the code. The problem is the double dummy solver, right? Like, this is the bottleneck. This is the issue. And like, sure, I know computers have improved in processing speed since I built my thing. But back in the day, I was using 100 deals. And like, that was quite slow. I mean, like I said, you know, about 5 minutes to play a hand where the computers were playing against each other. And most of that came at trick one. Like, most of the plays came at trick one. I think I even put in some sort of small optimization where if I got through like a quarter of the simulated deals and there was one like decision that clearly stood out, then I just stopped the simulation and went with the thing that seemed clearly best. So, like, I even probably did some optimizations on my stuff, and it was still very slow. Like, I don't think we can get 100 samples nowadays in 2 seconds, right? Like, I don't even think 2 seconds is possible. Like, I think even when I ran 10... what would 5 minutes divided by 10 be? That would be 30 seconds per deal. Okay, maybe 2 seconds per cart then. I don't remember. It's been a while. Uh, yep, talks about how many layouts he simulates. Oh, here's the developer of Gib and ACBL Ben. Not here to judge the approach. My intention is to challenge the statement. Many robots do include the full deal. Please name one. Okay, so Gib claims. I mean, again, Gib has denied me looking at their code, so I have no idea what to say about the Gib robots. They want to like black box their whole thing. I don't even know why, right? Like it's been proven at this point that Gib is the worst playing bridge robot out there, right? And ACBL 10 or Ben or whatever as well. I mean, I don't have any reason to distrust this statement, but it's interesting. Luke responds that Argene, which I guess is Funbridge's thing, and WB5 also has a mode. So, okay, and here's the guy that seems to have some knowledge of Gib, although I have no idea what this guy's associations are, but I think he probably works for Gib, or not Gib, works for BBO or something. Some of Gib's biggest and most reported flaws involve situations where the actual hand won't come up in simulations. For example, it might take an unnecessary finesse because you must hold a certain card based on the bidding. Sure, yeah, I mean, whatever. Including the actual deal as a low-weight sample would result in a massive quality improvement, and it's blatantly cheating. I heard rumors IntoBridge were doing this quite a long time ago, and to me it removed all their credibility. I mean, like, I can't stand these comments. Like, this isn't some sort of, like, big tournament with, like, prize money. This is just some sort of fun online game, right? Like, stop calling it cheating. Stop saying that they're not credible. Oh my god. Dude. Where's the downvote button? Can we seriously, like, downvote people who say this off the site? Vivia, or I guess the problem is that, like, every single comment on Bridge Winners would just get them removed from the site because everyone would downvote everything. There's, like, more haters than there are people who enjoy the posts of players. To be fair, I don't think IntoBridge have ever made a secret of this. If the rules of the game is that the robot is allowed to have and use some knowledge of the other player's cards, it's not cheating. It's just a different game than the one we come here to talk about. Yep, fair point. I think that this is leaning a different game than the one we come here to talk about. Like, we made an entire article about it on the website. We're here to talk about it, Andy. Like, change the tune. But this is still better than the other commenters. Game King asks, is IntoBridge a better robot tournament experience than BBO? I think it's about the same. I mean, I quit playing on BBO a few months back because well, I've stated my full reasons. I made, like, an entire video about it and also wrote a giant post because someone brought up my video on the site. But yeah, BBO was moving their robots in a bad direction from my perspective, and it feels like a lot of the websites are very similar. I mean, like not moving the robots in a bad direction, but like just the robot games are just not bridge, right? Like they never were supposed to be. It's just supposed to be like a thing you can do on your own that you don't have to recruit 3 other people to play with you at the same time. So that's nice. That's a really nice feature of having robot games, is that you can play it solo. It's a single player RPG, where you're role playing as like a human amongst robots and you're trying not to get found out or something like that. I don't know what the plot is. I'm sure we can come up with a good one. Maybe we should ask Gib GPT to come up with a plot for our video game. I mean, I'm pretty convinced at this point that this guy works for BBO, based on some of the comments here in this thread, as well as like the comments that he's made on my channel and comments that he's made addressing like some of my posts in the past. Interesting. So this stat is interesting. So Matt Ginsberg, the developer of Gib, a sample size of 50, 20 years ago, Gib was able to take 90 seconds to play a single deal. So that would have been about 60% of the time that it took me to play a single deal when I programmed my thing. And I was less than 20 years ago. And that's fascinating. Who knew there was a war between different bridge robots? I mean, I think BBO is just overly defensive about everything, right? Like, they need to save their public image because they have so many users on their site. They can't afford to look bad publicly. So if there's ever anything wrong that is said about them, they will fight tooth and nail to try and make sure that this misconception or whatever it is gets overturned. They want to fight back and make sure that like people know that BBO still has the best online experience for everyone to play bridge, right? It's really important to them. For a lot of the other bridge sites, this isn't so important because most people don't use the other sites. They don't have a large enough community that it's really that valuable for them to fight about their public image. But BBO has cared about this a lot. Like, why did they get so pissed at me when I left and stopped playing on their platform? It was because, like, I'm an influencer in this space. And so they can't afford to, like, lose a large percentage of people that are playing. I know a lot of my viewers or people on Discord still play in the BBBL games every Sunday. So I don't think that I really like dragged their site down in any way, but like they really wanted to go to war with me over me just being like, I'm not interested in playing anymore. The robots have become terrible and whoever's programming them is an idiot. I mean, I didn't say the things in that manner. I was a little bit nicer about the way I phrased things, but that was basically it. And they're just like, we can't support this behavior. Okay. Jerome Rambeau, since Funbridge was mentioned, I'll clarify a few points and step out of the thread. I'm not sure why Argene was brought into discussion. For the record, Luke is not working for Funbridge and has no connection. Regarding the idea that Argene might use the full deal, it's not how it operates, it's just not true. Yeah, isn't Jerome a famous player? He is. I assume he has to have some sort of stake in Funbridge, right? Like, that's the reason why he's posting this. So he's probably a investor or someone who developed the site or something. I mean, I know Funbridge is like a French platform of some kind, but And it's actually very easy for anyone to verify if unbridge has had for years a deals library module where you can edit a deal, swap hands, and replay it. Our gene will constantly make the same decisions regardless of which hand holds which cards. So before making such claims about an established platform, it's worth checking the tools are available. This is such a tricky part of being an online personality, is that, like, if I was having a conversation at dinner with some other bridge friends and I said, hey, I'm developing this robot for IntoBridge, here's how I do the thing, and then we got involved about, like, oh, you're looking at the player's hands, like, why do you do that? We have this whole talk, like, do any of the other bridge robots do that? And in response to that question, I was just like, yeah, actually, I think that FunBridge and WBridge 5 or, whatever, like, both do that. People would be like, oh, interesting. Like, this wouldn't be like a big deal. But because this has been published in an online forum, it kind of is on Luc to check on these things. But it's also really difficult because, like, we can look at how the conversation went, right? Lauren Daly posted this, please name one. He's asking Luc to name things, right? And he says, Argene, I think they stopped recently, and there was a quality drop in the card play. WB5 has a mode, so I guess it's using it somewhere. Like, he's guessing, and it should be easily interpreted that he is guessing that this is what's going on. But he was specifically asked a question to, like, support a guess that I think he made earlier. Where is it? Where did he say? Widely used, I mean, it might be this. Widely used in casual play to keep things fast and consistent. Sure, fine. Maybe he wasn't guessing about Argene. Even if I think they stopped recently on FunBridge, there was a quality drop in the card play. Again, like, he says, I think, because he's thinking that they might have stopped doing this thing. So that does show uncertainty. Like, I'm sure in, like, a legal court, he could defend his position here and be like, I didn't know. I was responding to a question in a thread that I had made, which is basically like an AMA. I'm allowed to express my own opinions. Like, I don't think he could be prosecuted for this. But with that said, where was I? Right, this sort of thing. A bunch of people are like, nope, the robot doesn't use this. Fine. I mean, like, they might be telling the truth. They might not be. Who knows? But, like, what would be the proper way to do this sort of thing? I mean, Luc could either say, I don't know, I was just guessing at my above comment, but, like, this is a bad look in a way because people jump all over that. Like, if you don't know something on the internet, you become the root of all evil, right? You can't just, like, talk about something and not make your points as if you're an expert, because then no one will listen to you. It's like the sad truth of the internet, right? So you have to be confident about the way that you phrase things in public forums. And so that gets people to say, like, I probably do this all the time on my streams. I'm sure I say a bunch of dumb stuff, either about bridge or otherwise, when I'm, like, playing or talking about stuff. But, like, you have to be confident. No one's going to listen to me if I was like, well, maybe, I don't know. Like, I, I have no idea what the right thing is. Like, and I just said that for every decision, no one would care about what I said anymore. People want me to be sure of myself. People want to like accept that I know what I'm talking about so that they can learn from me. So the alternative for Luke would have been like immediately afterwards to like reach out to the other like bridge robot creators and be like, hey, do you do this thing? But then he would have to take them at their word, and like, I don't know. I mean, it's like me taking Gib at their word about all of the changes that they've implemented. We didn't change the robots. Oh, interesting. But you did release an update the day that I said the robots became significantly worse, huh? Fascinating. Okay, what was in that update? Oh, we didn't change anything. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know where you're getting your information. Patch notes right here dated the day when everything changed. But no. Trust me. It was just like we fixed some comments in the code. That was it. Didn't touch anything else. Anyway, oh shit. Wait, it gets better. I explicitly mentioned it was probably not the case anymore since there was a drop in card play quality. I know for a fact it was true before, and there is nothing wrong about it. Oh shit. Okay. Well then. I don't think I'm going to read this. I don't know what this is about, but man, people are really upset about this. Please read the last line of the Luke comment. Which one? This? When will Arjun compete against other bots? It's been a long time. He was asking. Why? Is this going to get responded to at some point? Is this is the last line? Or is it this? Sounds like a challenge. I think Luke is too wholesome to be here. is what I think. I don't think this is a challenge. I think Luke is like seriously trying to treat this as if other people are responding to him in good faith and asking questions, and they are not responding in good faith. Like this. So assuming Luke is right, which I would assume based on this comment that Luke is correct, then this is not in good faith in any way. But again, it's like trying to defend the brand, right? Like if people are so upset about the robots peeking into your hand and looking at your cards, then you can't have that on your website. So we better sweep this under the rug and pretend like it never happened. Yeah, I don't think this is passive aggressive. You could probably read it that way, but I don't think that's what's going on based on Luke's comments. Luke does seem like he's trying to, I mean, maybe there's history between these two because they both are French and they're both young. I think this is the young Rambo, right? Leo is the father. So there might be some history there, in which case maybe it could be read in that way. Is there anything else going on in this thread? Yeah, so this is an interesting question from Danny, but it looks like it doesn't get a response. I mean, Luke said it was maximizing total tricks taken, but I also don't think that's right. This is what I believe that most robots do. Like, I'm certain based on their decision making and play that Gib does this. I think Leah does this. All the other robots I played with, it seems like that's what's going on. Like, this is good enough for imps, right? Maximizing total points because, you know, it's... the scale doesn't fall off that quickly when it comes to imps. And if you're winning like 500 points, that's probably going to be good enough. Then, of course, match points and blah, blah, blah. But no response. Ooh, there's a Chinese bridge platform that's bigger than BBO. And the robots that play are actually pretty good, Peter says. Fascinating. Ooh. Maybe we should look into this. Should I learn Chinese just so I can play on the Chinese bridge platform? Holy crap, what is this? Okay, I'm interested in reading this, but we'll see how detailed we get. Thanks, Luke. I just want to mention I implemented many parts of Nuke AI's alpha Mju algorithm to improve over perfect information multiple double dummy simulations. It basically tries combinations of M first, NS cards first, and then finishes with double dummy for the model first, north-south cards first, maybe? So if that's what they're talking about, this is what I did. I don't know if this is actually what they're doing. Let me try and parse what's going on here. One example. Deal 3. I like how the first example is labeled Deal 3. Very good. So what's going on? Deal 3 of 45 examples with East-West cards randomized. Goal is 10 tricks and hearts, South to play. So there was no opening lead. It's just South is on lead at trick 1 and is in hearts. Excellent. Start with Diamond Jack and North with Diamond 2 and East with Diamond 6, South with Diamond 5. Okay, so West Diamond 10, North Diamond 3, East Diamond Ace, South with Heart 6. Okay. Multiple double dummy lines like BBO suggests playing. Club Queen or Club 4. Apparently both the same. Who would have thought? Heart Queen, Heart 9. So 3 lines of play that have all simulated to the same thing. I think the point is that we have 2 entries to dummy, and we need to decide what to do with those 2 entries to dummy. We could take the spade finesse, right? We have to lose 2 hearts and a diamond, and our hope is that that's it. Or we could use those 2 entries to dummy to lead hearts towards our hand twice. So those are the 2 possibilities, and it looks like it has simulated that to be equal, right? That you could exit the heart 9 out of hand. Hopefully the hearts split in some favorable way and then take the spade finesse. Or you could cross to dummy with the club 4, probably intending to do one of those things, like maybe take the spade hook. Or you could lead the queen of clubs and then probably exit the heart 9 from there. Something like that. So Alpha Maju with M equals 5 suggests that the heart 9 is best. So this avoids strategy fusion with other problems, comes at a time cost. I'm trying to understand what m equals 5 means. Because, so the way that I did it, I used an algorithm that I guess is like completely unknown. Supposedly someone did it before me, but I didn't know it at the time. I actually only found out in grad school that someone had done my algorithm for the bridge AI before me. I mean, they weren't solving a bridge AI thing, but it's like a look ahead simulation and then rely on double dummy from that situation. So like you simulate based on how you think the opponent with a simulated hand is going to react to the play that you make. So this allows you to prepare for opposing errors on defense by capitalizing on it. Like if a certain line of play is like 50% to succeed and something else is like only 40% to succeed, but taking the 40% line of play means your opponents have a 50% chance of immediately blowing a trick. Now that 40% shoots up to 70%. And you probably should take that line of play, even though it is technically inferior. And so depending on how many steps you look ahead, the more likely you are to be able to catch opponents' errors. So I was only able to look ahead one step because of time constraints. Like I couldn't just have the program sit and think for 45 minutes at every play. There was just too many double dummy simulations that had to be run to make that happen. But if m equals 5, maybe they're looking ahead 5 plays. I'm not sure. Anyway, that is the way to model the opponent's behavior. Like you have to be able to model the opponent's behavior if you're looking ahead, right? Because you need to know how the opponent's going to react when you make a certain move. And because this is the guy that does the nuke AI stuff, he probably did do some sort of modeling of the opponent's behavior. So I'm guessing what he's saying is that m equals 5 is a look ahead. He's looking ahead 5 plays, which is an enormous amount. So he must have been doing something way beyond what I was doing, because I was incapable of looking ahead more than one play. Like I couldn't see beyond the first opponent's reaction to my move. But that was still pretty good. Right? It would be nicer if we could complete a full trick, which it looks like is what they're doing. They're looking ahead 5 plays. So that seems pretty cool. They found a way to do that and not necessarily make it super slow. But apparently the Heart 9 is the standout play then. So why is that? I mean... Is it so clear that we're supposed to exit the 9 of hearts from hand? Like, what? Maybe the point is that sometimes when we exit the 9 of hearts, our left-hand opponent holding 3 diamonds and honor 10 third in hearts makes an error and plays the 10 of hearts on this trick. I don't think a human defender would do that. They would just be like, this is really weird. Why is Declare playing the 9 of hearts instead of a higher heart spot? Partner must have something. They would just play low. But that could be the reason. And so crossing first in clubs to like lead a heart up or take a spade finesse would be somewhat inferior to doing that. Anyway, I have no idea. Also, I mean, look at this time. It took 4 orders of magnitude difference for their looking ahead 5 plays. I mean, that makes sense to me. I still think this is a lot faster than what I could have implemented with my code base, but that's like kind of believable. Also, shout out to C++. Luc doesn't respond. I feel like Luc has given up on the thread at this point. What's going on here? Another same guy. Oh my god! Nuke AI provided valuable papers to their bridge research. Alpha Mu, as I and Dave suggested, and many more. Wait, where's Dave? I don't know where Dave is. optimizing alpha mu. Step up from multiple double demi-solver or perfect information Monte Carlo. Multiple double dummy solvers always know how to play a deal, but the result is difficult to combine from several deals, resulting in strategy fusion and non-locality problems. Here's an example of strategy fusion. You're playing no trump, West leads spade 2. What do you discard from the table? East-west cards are scrambled. The club queen is missing. This is like unreadable. Let me stare at this for a second. West leads the 2 of spades in this position. Both us and our hand are out. So we need the rest of the tricks. Wait, but hold on. We just have the rest of the tricks. We have 2 hearts, we have a diamond, and we have 2 clubs. What? We just pitch a club from both hands. Hello? The only bad card to discard is the ace of clubs. Then you only make it 50%. So this is a guy who is a programmer but knows nothing about bridge. Oh, I see. So what he's saying is that we can always guess the club, and we have a 100% guess for the queen of clubs because we're not looking ahead far enough. But his software kind of detects that the heart ace and heart 2 work 94% of the time for whatever reason, and only these 2 plays lead to 100%. M equals 8. Wow. So, which also took 87 seconds. I don't know if M equals 8 is what I think it means. I'm pretty sure this is the look ahead variable. So Leah prefers not to discard winners, and Leah can count the number of winners she has. I don't know if other bridge AIs do that. Impressed you managed to code this algorithm. I've read it full 10 times and still don't understand it. Okay, we need to... I'm going to save this for later.